this step 2, which is bootstrapping, is extremely important because every single UI5 application you build will use this exact bootstrap method. Okay, so welcome to this step 2 called bootstrapping in our SAP UI5 tutorial walkthrough. So at the end of this lesson or this step, you understand what SAP UI5 bootstrapping really means. And then you also understand how UI5 loads into the browser. Likewise, we are going to be explaining what each bootstrap attribute does. Then we're also going to be explaining how UI5 resolves the namespaces. You also learn how to run UI5 modules. Also, you learn how to trigger an action when UI5 is ready. Also, in this step 2, you are going to learn the reason why we need to move the JavaScript code out of HTML file. And finally, you also learn how the UI5 CLI helps to serve the framework. So this step 2, which is bootstrapping, is extremely important because every single UI5 application you build will use this exact bootstrap method. So to achieve this goal, what we're going to do is to start the UI5 server. We're going to open it in the browser. It will load index.html. It will use UI5 bootstraps. And then we are going to show alert on the browser and also display some hello world text. So when this alert shows, then that means that our UI5 bootstrapped application is running. So let's get started. I can end the current server by doing Ctrl+C. All right. So if you are using cursor and you mistakenly close the chat, right, you can use Ctrl+L, bring it back. In the previous video, we already created a simple hello world using the plain HTML, but this was not using SAP UI5 yet. It was just HTML in a browser. So before we can build real applications, we must load and initialize the UI5 framework. And the process of loading this UI5 framework is called bootstrapping. And these are the 8 goals or 8 steps that we aim to achieve in this step 2. All right. Now, what is bootstrapping? So think of bootstrapping as starting the engine of SAP UI5. Okay. So once the UI5 engine has started, we can begin using things like UI5 controls, UI5 views, UI5 controllers, UI5 models, routing, and all the powerful features of the SAP UI5 framework. So the first thing we need to do is to update the UI5 CLI settings. And how do we do this? We run this command, use UI5, open UI5. This tells UI5 CLI, use the open UI5 version of the framework. So the open UI5 version is actually an open source version that is maintained by SAP. So SAP UI5, of course, is the commercial SAP version. And so they both use the same code base. So the next thing we need to do, okay, let's click on enter. We run the command UI5, use open UI5. Okay, now we have it in the right order. So after running this, the next thing we need to do is to add UI5 libraries. And so we can add UI5 add sap.ui5.core, sap.m, teamlib _sap_horizon. So this command will download 3 packages into our folder, okay? And the sap.ui.core is the core runtime of SAP UI5. So this is mandatory. Then the sap.m is mobile-friendly UI controls that will make us access things like buttons, inputs, pages, etc. And then the teamlib _sap_horizon is the SAP Fiori theme. So these are the minimum required UI5 parts to run modern SAP applications. So now the next thing we need to do is that we need to update our index.html file. So we update it to load UI5 by adding what we call the script tag. So after the title, we can add script, close this. So right in here, we add the bootstrapping settings. So in the script tag, we have what we call the ID, and the ID is SAP-UI-bootstrap. And also we can add the source. So I'll explain this too in a minute. Okay. Now remember, there's no comma to separate these declarations. So the ID must be exactly SAP-UI-Bootstrap, because UI5 will look for this script tag with this exact ID to start the runtime. So if you spell it wrongly, UI5 will not load and UI5 controls will not work, and you'll also see a blank page. So also, if you have a blank page, this is also where you can check, did you type this correctly? And then the next thing is this source. So this tells the browser where to load the UI5 from. So the UI5 is hosted inside the library resources, okay? And the SAP-UI-core.js, this is the main JavaScript file that starts the entire SAP UI5 framework. So this file will initialize the UI5, it will load the models, it will load the libraries, and then to start the framework lifecycle. We are going to add data. Okay, I will just go ahead and paste the rest of the script tag code from the walkthrough, and then I can explain as we go. So SAP UI5 supports multiple themes. Example can be SAP Horizon, the Fiori _3, SAP Belitz, and SAP Blue Crystal. But for this, we choose SAP Horizon. So this is the current SAP Fiori 3 Plus design system. And then the next thing we define the script tag is the library SAP UI libs. So we are using sap.m, and like we know, UI5 has many libraries which will also be seen as time goes on in this tutorial. So this sap.m library has the UI controls, that's the user interface controls, and this library contains things like the button, the page, the app, the message toast, the toolbar, input, and so on and so forth. So without sap.m, we cannot use or we cannot show these controls. Then we have this SAP UI compat version equals edge. So this means that we use the latest version of UI5 features, and UI5 will run in the most modern mode that is available. And the next is the SAP UI asynchronous, set it to true, and this will load UI5 asynchronously. So this means that resources will load in the background and the browser will not freeze. So the browser does not need to freeze. This will improve performances, and files will load in parallel. So always set the async to true, and this is required in modern, or this is recommended in modern UI5 application. And finally, the UI5 walkthrough /index. So this means that we don't write something like alert inside HTML. Instead, the UI5 will load web app /index.js. We are going to create a file called index.js, and it will execute it as the application start script. So the reason for this is that it will improve security, maintainability, and also give you separation of concern. And finally, we have this resource -roots. So the meaning is that this will tell UI5 how to map the namespace, that is the folder, and the namespace that we have is called UI5.walkthrough. Okay, and then the folder, this folder walkthrough, is also the same as our index.html. So when UI5 loads a module, it goes UI5.walkthrough.index, and when it does that, it knows how to look inside index.js to run the JavaScript. This is critical for module resolution. All right. So like I said, we are going to create a file called index.js. So inside the web app right here, you're going to say create new file, and we are going to call it index.js file. And so inside this index.js, we are going to write the code. So we have sap.ui.define. We're going to define a function. We use the arrow method to define our function. And then we have curly brackets. Right here, we are going to include what we call use strict. And then we are going to use the method called alert. So alert, semicolon. And what should it display? We can say UI5 is ready. Okay. So let me explain this. So this sap.ui.define, this is the SAP UI5 module definition system. So it tells UI5 to define a new module. So UI5 modules are dependency aware, they are asynchronous, they are also lazy loaded. And then the first argument that we have in this module is the dependencies. This is the square bracket, these dependencies. So for this, this module has no dependencies yet, but we will include dependencies in this. And later we will load button, JSON model, controller, XML views, and etc. So the use strict here is, of course, you know this from JavaScript. This activates the strict mode in JavaScript. And what strict mode does is that it catches errors early and then prevents bad practices. And finally, like I explained, the alert. So you see that it's a function. It instructs the browser to display a dialog with an optional message and to wait until the user dismisses the dialog. So that is what the alert does. And this will only run after bootstrapping finishes. So that means our UI5 is ready. So if you see this alert, which means that our bootstrapping was successful. So UI5 is ready. We'll confirm that bootstrapping was correct, the module was found, and the namespace that we used here was correctly mapped. All right, so let's save all. Remember to save all. And let's test our application. Save all. So to run this, we just do npm start. So to open a server. So a new tab has been opened, and then we see it loading. We see the text hello world here. So at this point, the bootstrapping is still in progress, and now we have the alert. UI5 is ready. So this means that UI5 was loaded successfully. All right, congratulations. Your first real UI5 bootstrapped application is now running. And in the next video, we are going to be looking at controls. So see you in the next video.